You're listening to the Extra Reel with Ger Brown
and Colm Ryan for a look at the bigger picture of film.
with films from around the world,
Through the decades,
from movies you know and love.
to movies you need to discover.
Enola Holmes is a new Netflix release based on the first book of a series of the same name by Nancy Springer. The story is about a teenage sister of the already famous Sherlock Holmes who goes to London in search of her mother who has disappeared. We are plunged straight into the story with Enola Holmes, who's played by Millie Bobby Brown, breaking the fourth wall and telling us exactly what's going on. It opens at a breakneck pace and it maintains it for a good chunk of its running time. I needed a film like this. This is something where I've kind of missed out on these because there's been no cinemas open, and this is the type of thing where I think it's kind of catering for the Harry Potter brigade. Were you a fan of Stranger Things?
I am. I've the first season is amazing. The second season is pretty good. The last season I wasn't so hot on. But Millie Bobby Brown is she's probably the biggest of the child actors. She's probably the best. You know, she's playing kind of the most difficult part, I think.
Yeah.
And she pulls it off amazingly. And she is brilliant here. Like, I mean, she is a star completely on the rise. And like, when I first saw the trailer for this, I thought, oh, this fourth wall stuff could get a bit cringy, a bit annoying after a while.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Me too.
She has the personality, I think, to kind of just pull it off, you know?
Yeah. And like in the rest of the cast, you've got Henry Cavill, you've got Helena Bonham Carter as the mother, you got Sam Claflin, who's pretty solid in this.
He is always a bad guy. I mean, he was in the last series of Peaky Blinders, and he's always plays an absolute prick in films, but he's brilliant at it, I think.
A brilliant prick.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that, but you know, he could be a very nice guy, but he's really good at playing like bad guys.
So story-wise, that's pretty much it for the bulk of it. There are a couple of subplots with a Marquis of Tewkesbury. It does have its grounding in some historical events, and we see like elements of the rise of the suffragettes and stuff like that. And I mean, it rockets along fairly well for I felt anyway, for about an hour and 15 minutes, and then it kind of dropped the ball a small bit.
Yeah.
It felt like we were missing something. It wasn't that we were missing a villain that wasn't menacing, because you've got Burn Gorman who's kind of chasing them throughout, and his scenes are actually quite frightening. They
are, and it's probably something that maybe separates this from maybe something like a Disney picture or something, in that she has a physical fist fight. Like, Enola Holmes has a physical fist fight with Lynn Tord at one stage of the film, and she pretty much loses that first fight and nearly is drowned and stuff. And you're like, wow, this is, you know, a lot of peril for a kind of protagonist in one of these films, I think.
Yeah, and there is real impact when people get hit, particularly when one or two characters get bumped off. I think what the film is actually missing, though, is maybe a big set piece at the end, a climactic set piece. It just kind of all comes together in the end. It's perfectly charming, it's perfectly serviceable, but I don't think it hits the high marks of being like anything that's overly memorable. What I do like, it does seem to kind of fit into that sub Sherlock Holmes type movie where you have some variation on a traditional Sherlock Holmes story. So like, it really reminds me of, and it seems to have a kind of almost a nostalgic kind of feeling to something like Young Sherlock from the 80s. And also it has a similar tone at times to something like Without a Clue, with the Sherlock Holmes one with Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley. Like, it's a lot of fun, and I feel like, I mean, would you watch another one?
Well, that's it. Kind of, I felt that was my kind of, I suppose, criticism in a sense. The last act isn't as action packed as it could be, and I feel like they're kind of trying to do that thing where just build a franchise for this.
Yeah.
But I probably would watch another one, but I don't know if it would be as successful.
Yeah, and I think by virtue of the fact that it came out on Netflix, even though it was produced for something for the cinemas, I do feel like it's a bit more small scale, and I think it hit its perfect kind of its perfect level. It's at the right level with something that's released direct to streaming, would I go to the cinema to see another one? I'd have to see. Do you know what? I'd have to see good reviews, and I'd have to see. Well, I'd have to see if there's a cinema left.
I know, yeah, but no, I do think it's excellent kind of Sunday afternoon viewing. That is perfect for that, you know.
Yeah, and I would say it's almost family viewing, but not for like young families.
No, definitely not.
But it's grand, perfectly easy to watch, perfectly easy to digest. But probably outstays its welcome a little bit, but definitely worth a watch.
Thank you very much for listening. You can contact the show by emailing to extrareal@gmail.com. Search for the Extra Real Podcast on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can listen to the show on Spotify, iTunes or anywhere you get your podcast from.